Hello, welcome to Phantom Homicide, the Hello Kitty murder case. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive, a really deep one, into maybe the most notorious, certainly one of the most horrifying criminal cases in Hong Kong's recent memory.
Absolutely. It's a case that deeply scarred the public consciousness there.
We're talking about the story of Fan Mia. She was just 23 years old back in the spring of 1999 when her life was brutally ended. And the way her remains were discovered, well, it just defies belief.
It really does.
So our mission today, it's not just about recounting the events, which are incredibly gruesome. We've gathered the source material, the police reports, trial transcripts, psychological analyses, and we want to try and understand that terrifying mix of factors.
Things like debt, triad connections, drug addiction.
And just sheer sustained sadism, how all of that came together and allowed this month-long horror to unfold right in the middle of a major city.
And what really cemented this case in public memory, what gave it that unforgettable, almost grotesque nickname, is that central artifact.
The Hello Kitty doll?
Yes. We're looking at abduction, relentless torture over weeks, murder, dismemberment, and then that final horrific act where the victim's skull was found. Found sewn inside a Hello Kitty mermaid plush toy.
You just can't overstate the psychological shock of that image, can you?
Yeah, that combination. A global symbol of childhood, of innocence, of just gentle playfulness, fused with an act of, well, unimaginable depravity. It's deeply disturbing on a fundamental level.
It creates this dissonance you can barely process, and the location adds another layer. This wasn't some remote, hidden place.
Oh, this happened in Tsim Sha Tsui.
A really crowded, dynamic, wealthy district in Kowloon.
Right, on the third floor of the 31 Granville Road. Just a normal-looking rental apartment behind an unremarkable door.
It serves as this chilling reminder, especially for people in Hong Kong, I imagine, that the CFIS of an orderly commercial society, it can hide absolute darkness, literally inches away from everyday life.
It's stark thought.
So to really understand the full scope of this tragedy, maybe we should start with the victim herself, Fan Yu.
Yes, I think that's essential. Her life story is marked by vulnerability right from the very beginning. She was born in Shenzhen, mainland China, in 1976.
But she didn't stay there long, right?
No, she was abandoned as a child. Ended up being raised in an all-girls orphanage in Ma Ta Wai here in Hong Kong. But even that wasn't a permanent refuge.
Because of the age restrictions.
Exactly. The system had rules. When Fan Yai turned 15, she had to leave. By law, essentially.
Just imagine that, 15 years old, put out onto the streets of a huge, dense city like Hong Kong. No family, no real education, no support network to speak of.
It's almost unthinkable.
Yeah.
And that lack of resources, that immediate exposure, it basically channeled her straight onto a path of exploitation.
What happened then?
Well, facing homelessness, intense economic pressure, she fell into drug addiction and eventually into street prostitution just to survive.
A means to an end.
Pretty much. By her early 20s, she was working in the Sham Shui Po area, specifically at a place known as the Romance Villa Brothel. She seemed desperate for some kind of stability, maybe connection.
Is that when she got married?
Yes, in 1996. She married a man named Nen Chi Wen. They met, and he was also struggling with addiction.
But that didn't provide the stability she was looking for, did it?
Sadly, no. Quite the opposite. The sources we have paint a really grim picture of their life together. Nen Chi Wen was reportedly abusive, violent.
Neighbors heard things.
Yeah, after her death, neighbors in their Mung Kok apartment building told police they often heard loud fights. And worse, they heard their infant son crying during these altercations. Apparently, this violence was happening even while she was pregnant.
Just awful. But then something changed for her.
A major turning point, yes. Her son was born in November 1998. That was just about 5 months before she died. And having him, it seems, sparked this huge decision in her.
She decided to get out.
Completely. She quit drugs, she stopped working as a prostitute, and incredibly bravely, she left her violent husband. She seemed determined to build a safer, more stable life for her baby.
That takes immense courage, especially given her circumstances.
It really does. And this is where the story takes such a cruel, ironic twist.
Because she tried to find legitimate work.
Right. She got a job as a hostess at the Empress Karaoke Club. It was definitely a step down financially from, the world she'd been in. But it represented safety, legality, a way out.
She was struggling, though, trying to provide for her son.
Absolutely. Putting everything she had into him, trying so hard to escape that cycle she'd been trapped in for a decade. She was actively trying to save her own life and her son's future.
But her past caught up with her.
Her vulnerability remained incredibly high. She was still marginalized, somewhat isolated, and desperate for money. That made her a target for the very people who had exploited her before.
So her attempt to climb out, to build this normal life.
Required her to navigate the fringes of that same dangerous world, nightclubs, organized crime connections. That financial pressure, that desperation, it essentially created the opening for the perpetrators. Her attempt to save her life led her straight into the hands of the man who would orchestrate her death.
Let's talk about him, the orchestrator, Chan Manlock.
Right. He's the central figure behind the abduction. Chan Manlock, 33 at the time, also known as Aluk or Asi. And crucially, he wasn't just some petty criminal.
It was Triad.
Yes, an established member of the Wo Triad. That's a major organized crime group in Hong Kong. He already had convictions for drug trafficking going back to the early 90s.
And Fan knew him from before.
Yes, he had been one of his clients back when she was working at the brothel.
So the fact he was Triad, that's significant. It means he operated with a certain level of impunity, had resources.
Exactly, and was accustomed to using extreme violence as a tool for control in business. Fan, trying to pay her way in her new life, unfortunately still had these dangerous connections.
And the trigger for all this was a debt.
A financial dispute, yes. Apparently sometime in early 1999, Fan stole Chan's wallet.
How much was in it?
Reports say around HK $4,000. About $500 back then.
Did she give it back?
She did. When Chan confronted her, she returned the cash immediately, but that wasn't enough for him.
Triad justice, I suppose.
Precisely. He demanded not just the stolen money back, but an additional massive fee, HK $10,000, more than double what was stolen.
Which would have been impossible for her to pay quickly, working as a hostess.
Absolutely impossible. And that debt became his lever, his mechanism for control.
So when she couldn't pay,
He decided to take it further. Vengeance, and also renewed exploitation. On March 17, 1999, she was abducted, right from her flat in the Liu estate.
and he didn't do it alone.
No, he brought his crew, which shows a level of coordination.
Who are the others involved?
There was Lung Wai Lun. He was 21, known as Gangsta 1. Then Ling Xingqiu, possibly 26, called Gangsta 2. He was reportedly Lung Wai Lun's boyfriend.
And there was someone else, much younger.
Yes, and this is deeply disturbing. Lao Mingfeng. She was only 14 years old. The sources suggest she was already being groomed by Chan, essentially under his coercive control.
A 14-year-old girl involved in something like this.
It speaks volumes, doesn't it? And the fact that the two Liangs apparently held mundane jobs, I think one worked in retail nearby, it shows how Chan's influence could draw seemingly ordinary people into extreme violence.
It wasn't just hardened criminals?
No. It points to that dynamic of group sadism, how it can escalate.
So they took Fan Manu to Chan's place.
Yes, his rented apartment. Third floor, Block B, 31 Granville Road. Technically owned by others, Assam and Akau, but they weren't involved in what followed.
What was the initial plan? Just get the money back.
The initial plan, according to reports, was actually quite businesslike in a grim way. Chan intended to force Fan back into prostitution, pimp her out until the HK $10,000 debt, plus interest probably, was repaid.
And it didn't stay about the money.
No. Once they had her captive in that apartment, the dynamic shifted. The sadism of the group seemed to take over. It spiraled way beyond just financial exploitation. The punishment itself became the goal.
And that leads us into the darkest part of this story, the month of torture.
Yes. This is the core of the horror. For roughly 1 month, from March 17th until sometime around April 14th or 15th, Fan Man Yai endured. Well, a systematic regime of torture. It wasn't spontaneous rage. It was deliberate, escalating cruelty designed for maximum pain and humiliation.
The police reports and trial transcripts detail some of this. We should probably warn listeners this is going to be difficult to hear.
It is. The sources document repeated torture and rape. Often, she was apparently strung up, bound, and literally used as a punching bag.
Like a piece of meat.
Essentially, there was one specific instance noted where she was kicked in the head around 50 times. This wasn't just random beating, it was targeted. Repetitive trauma. Calculated.
And it went beyond physical blows.
Oh, yes. The sadism was inventive in the worst possible way. They used chemical and thermal abuse, rubbing spices, chili, peppers into her open wounds.
Just agonizing.
Designed to intensify pain, promote infection, and then the burning. Her legs and feet were repeatedly burned with candle wax, and shockingly, with molten hot plastic.
Hot plastic.
Yeah.
That suggests a level of planning, doesn't it? Finding ways to inflict pain.
It does. And those burns, particularly on her legs and feet, they served a practical purpose for the captors, too. It prevented her from walking, from even attempting to escape. She was completely physically dependent on them.
And this is psychological torment.
Just as profound, constant, forced humiliation. The most sickening example mentioned is that she was forced to smile, forced to say she enjoyed the beatings.
Under threat of worse torture if she didn't comply.
Exactly. There are also accounts referenced in trial documents, again, deeply disturbing, of her being forced to eat feces, reports of other forms of sexual assault, and even the use of electric shocks.
It's just systematic degradation.
Completely. And alongside the act of torture, there was profound neglect, denied proper food, water, medical care, despite obvious severe injuries and infections setting in.
And drugs were involved, too, against her.
Critically, yes. She was forcibly injected with methamphetamine, meth.
Why would they do that?
It's a key part of the psychological control, I think. Meth is a powerful stimulant. It would have plunged her into a state of extreme paranoia, terror, delirium. It would shatter her ability to resist, even her ability to process what was happening.
While potentially fueling the perpetrator's own aggression.
Very likely.
Yeah.
They were involved in the drug trade, probably using heavily themselves. Meth lowers inhibitions, increases aggression, paranoia. It could explain the sheer endurance required to maintain this level of active torture for a whole month. The drug ensured the terror was internal as well as external, constant.
So how did it end? How did she actually die?
Sometime between April 14th and 15th, and she didn't die from one specific blow like you might expect. The official forensic conclusion was traumatic shock. Her body just gave out. The cumulative effect of a month of overwhelming injuries, infections, sustained abuse, relentless torture.
Her system just shut down.
That's the conclusion.
Once she was dead, their focus shifted immediately, right, to covering it up.
Instantly and methodically. The decision was made to dismember the body. They did this in the apartment's bathtub.
And they tried to destroy the evidence further.
Yes. They began boiling the remains in large cooking pots, trying to remove flesh, trying to mask the smell. It shows this horrifying level of detachment, treating her body purely as an obstacle to be disposed of.
And this is where the Hello Kitty doll comes in.
This is the detail that shocked the world. During the dismemberment, the skull was separated, and somehow the decision was made to sew it inside a large Hello Kitty mermaid plush doll.
Why? Was there any reason given?
Not really. It seems almost random. The triviality of the object, this common, recognizable toy, it just amplified the horror exponentially. Some sources even mention the detail that the skull was supposedly packed with dead insects before being sealed inside the doll. Just layer upon layer of desecration.
Did they manage to get rid of most of the remains?
Disturbingly effectively, yes. When the police finally searched, they found that gruesome package. The doll containing the skull, one tooth, and some internal organs, all stuffed in a plastic bag.
And the rest?
Gone. Systematically discarded in public trash dumps across multiple districts, Shamshui-po, Wanchai, Taikok-sui. The clear intention was to make identification and piecing together the crime impossible.
They almost succeeded. How did the police actually break the case, given how much evidence was destroyed?
It wasn't forensics initially. It was a crack in the group's own psychological defenses. The silence broke on May 24, 1999. That's over a month after the murder.
Who confessed?
Lau Mingfang, the 14-year-old girl. She walked into the Yamatai police station and told them everything.
Why? What reason did she give?
Her stated reason was, well, haunting. She claimed she was being tormented by Fan Manyi's ghost, that the psychological burden of the secret had become unbearable.
Police must have been skeptical at first. A ghost story confession.
Extremely cautious, yes. Her story was so outlandish, so horrific. But the level of detail she provided, the specifics about the apartment, the torture, the doll, it eventually led officers Chukasue, Sin Timhua, Andrew Yip Yanling were mentioned to 31 Granville Road.
And they found the evidence.
They found the doll, the skull, the grim confirmation of her entire story.
What happened to the perpetrators then? Did they scatter?
A manhunt began immediately. Chan Manlok's wife, Tsepui Ling, lived in the flat, so she was briefly suspected but cleared quickly. Lu Wailun, Gangsta 1, he realized the game was up once the news broke. He fled to mainland China, to Guangxi.
He became internationally wanted.
Yes, placed on Interpol's most wanted list. He was eventually caught in February 2000, apparently due to some passport irregularities. Chan and Lung Xingqiu were apprehended in Hong Kong.
And identifying the skull, that must have been difficult too.
It was. With so much of the body gone, standard methods like fingerprints or dental records were mostly useless. The formal identification happened on June 3rd at the Lockhart Mortuary. They used a specialized technique called the photo overlapping method.
How does that work?
It's a forensic anthropology tool. Specialists take a known photograph, of the victim, Fan Manny in this case, and digitally superimpose it over a photograph of the recovered skull. They meticulously align facial features, bone structure, dental elements to see if they match conclusively.
So it's like putting a face onto the skull digitally.
Exactly. It's precise, painstaking work, but it provided the definitive proof they needed to link the skull to Fan Manier and proceed with the murder charges against the three men.
So the trial finally gets underway, October 2000.
Through to December, yes.
Mm.
The prosecution's case rested heavily on Lau Mingfong's testimony. Remember, the 14-year-old girl, she was granted full immunity for testifying against the others.
And the three men, Chan Man-lok, Liu Xingqiu, Lun Wai-lun, what was their defense?
This is crucial. Chan and Lun Xingqiu actually admitted to the dismemberment, a horrific admission in itself, but they all vehemently denied the murder charge.
How could they deny it after admitting the torture and dismemberment?
Their defense hinged on legal intent. They argued that while, yes, they committed the sustained assaults that led to her death, they never had the specific intent to kill her. Mens rea, the guilty mind required for a murder conviction.
And this is where it got really controversial, right? The verdict.
Hugely controversial. The jury, 8 men, 1 woman, came back with a verdict that stunned many. They convicted the 3 men, not of murder, but of manslaughter. And it wasn't even unanimous, it was a 6.3 majority vote.
Manslaughter. After a month of torture, how did the jury reach that conclusion?
We have to understand the legal hurdle. To get a murder conviction in Hong Kong law, the prosecution must prove that specific intent to kill beyond a reasonable doubt. Because the body was so thoroughly destroyed, the jury felt the remaining evidence was insufficient to definitively prove that intent.
So the destruction of evidence actually helped the defendants legally?
In a way, yes. The jury also reasoned that while the death was clearly the result of the abuse, they couldn't absolutely rule out the possibility that a drug overdose might have been the final, immediate trigger rather than a specific killing blow. It created just enough reasonable doubt about the intent to kill.
Even though the overdose, if it happened, was part of the forced drugging and torture.
Legally, the distinction mattered for the murder charge. It provided that narrow loophole.
The public must have been outraged.
Immensely. People saw it as a complete miscarriage of justice. How could systematically torturing someone for a month not imply an intent to cause ultimate harm, even death? It felt like the law failed to grasp the severity.
But the sentence was still harsh.
Yes, despite the manslaughter conviction, the judge, Justice Peter Nguyen, recognized the extreme nature of the crime. He sentenced all 3, Chan, Lun Wai-lun, and Lun Xingqiu, to life imprisonment. He did stipulate a minimum period before parole could be considered, which was 20 years.
Did the judge comment on the crime itself?
Oh, very strongly. Justice Nguyen stated in court, and this quote really stands out, "Never in Hong Kong in recent years has a court heard of such cruelty, depravity, callousness, brutality, violence, and viciousness." He didn't mince words.
And the psychiatric evaluations.
They backed up the judge's assessment. Reports from Castle Peak Hospital and Seal Lam Hospital described the trio as completely lacking empathy. The word used was remorseless.
Which suggests this wasn't some crime of passion that got out of hand.
Not at all. It pointed towards deeply ingrained psychopathic and sadistic tendencies, particularly in Chan, but present in the group dynamic.
Let's dig into that psychology a bit more. Chan Man-lok, the orchestrator, what does his profile suggest?
Classic traits associated with severe sadism and psychopathy. You see the total lack of empathy, the apparent pleasure derived from inflicting pain, this overwhelming need for power and control. He turned that apartment into his personal domain of torture.
And the group dynamic, how did the others get drawn in so deeply?
That's perhaps the most terrifying aspect psychologically. It demonstrates extreme group violence dynamics. Things like de-individuation, losing your sense of self in the group, diffusion of responsibility. I'm not solely responsible because others are doing it too.
So individual moral compasses just dissolve.
They seem to. The fact that Lun Wai-lun and Lun Xingqiu has seemingly normal jobs beforehand shows how social proof, seeing others engage in extreme behavior, can normalize the unthinkable within that closed group. The cruelty escalated collectively. It became a shared project in depravity.
And the methamphetamine use likely fueled this.
Absolutely. We know Fan was injected, but the perpetrators were almost certainly using heavily too, given Chan's background. Meth is a known facilitator for this kind of prolonged aggressive violence. It lowers inhibitions, increases paranoia, boosts aggression, and crucially, provides the physical energy to sustain such an ordeal for weeks.
It wasn't just incidental, it was probably integral to the crime's duration and intensity.
Very likely. It acted as a catalyst, reducing any lingering empathy and enabling the sheer relentlessness of the abuse.
Looking at it from Fan Manny's perspective, the case really highlights the dangers faced by marginalized women, doesn't it?
Starkly. Her vulnerability was complex. Her history of abandonment, the addiction, her involvement in sex work. This crime is an extreme example of gender-based violence. Sexual assault and domination weren't just part of the abuse. They were core tools of torture and power, wielded against someone already isolated from society's protections.
And that ties back to the legal controversy, the public feeling that the law didn't adequately address this kind of crime.
Exactly. The manslaughter verdict raised huge questions. Was Hong Kong law equipped to handle torture murder, where the intent isn't a single moment, but woven through weeks of systematic cruelty designed to destroy someone?
It felt like the law was looking for a smoking gun, a single killing act, rather than recognizing death by 1,000 cuts inflicted intentionally over time.
That's a good way to put it. The case exposed a potential gap in how the legal system defined and punished that prolonged, sadistic destruction of life, which feels fundamentally different and perhaps more horrifying than a sudden homicide.
So what happened after the sentencing? Life imprisonment, but with a parole review after 20 years? Did they all serve that?
Not quite. The story took another turn. Let's track the perpetrators.
Okay.
Lung Xing Cho, Gangsta 2, he was the first to challenge his sentence, and he was successful. In March 2004, his life sentence was appealed and commuted to a fixed term of 18 years.
So he got out much earlier.
Considerably earlier.
Yeah.
He was released from prison in April 2014, having served his time for, as the judge put it, unparalleled depravity.
And did he reintegrate into society?
This is the truly chilling postscript. 8 years after his release, in August 2022, Ling Xingqiu was arrested again.
For what?
He was jailed for 12 months for sexually assaulting a 10-year-old girl.
Oh my God.
It's horrifying. It confirms the psychiatric assessment of remorseless. It's a devastating indictment of the decision to reduce his sentence, and it raises profound questions about rehabilitation and parole assessment for such extreme offenders. The danger was clearly still present.
What about the other two, Chana Manlock and Lung Weilan?
As far as public records show, they remain incarcerated, likely still serving their life sentences, potentially eligible for parole review around now or in the near future, given the 20-year minimum.
And the physical location? 31 Granville Road.
The building itself is gone. The apartment block where Fan Manny died was demolished in September 2012.
Wiped from the map, essentially.
Physically, yes,
Hmm.
but not from memory. A hotel, the Sorvid Hotel, was built on the site and opened in 2016.
Did they acknowledge the history?
In a unique way. The local memory was so strong, the trauma so palpable, that the hotel owners placed 3 prominent Buddha portraits inside the building. It's seen as a kind of memorial, or maybe an attempt at spiritual cleansing of the site. It shows how deeply this crime affected the area.
And Fan Manny herself, when was she finally laid to rest?
Her skull remained with the forensic team until all the legal appeals were finished. Her birth family was eventually located and notified in March 2004. The skull was finally cremated later that month on March 26th.
Was there anything personal recovered?
Just one small, poignant item. During the initial police search of the apartment, her necklace was found inside the refrigerator. That necklace was eventually given to her son, a tiny fragment connecting him to the mother he barely knew. And the case's notoriety lived on in other ways, too.
Through popular culture.
Yes. The sheer horror, especially the Hello Kitty doll detail, inevitably attracted filmmakers. It inspired several Hong Kong Category 3rd films. That's their rating for extreme content. Movies like Human Pork Chop and There Was a Secret in My Soup came out in 2001.
So the case became infamous globally.
Absolutely. Those films cemented the Hello Kitty murder in the annals of dark true crime, ensuring its grim legacy endured.
This deep dive, it's really traced a path from Fan Manny's profound vulnerability through the calculated cruelty of her captors to the legal battles and the shockwaves still felt today.
What really stands out is the cascade of failures, isn't it? The lack of safety nets for her, the ease with which triad power and sheer sadism operated unchecked for a whole month, right in the city center.
And the fact that it all stemmed, initially, from a stolen wallet and a HK $10,000 debt. The escalation is just terrifying.
It forces you to think about justice, too. When the evidence is deliberately destroyed, when the crime is defined by prolonged agony rather than a single act, can our legal systems truly cope?
The manslaughter verdict, lynching Cho's later crime. It suggests maybe not always. Maybe society still struggles to classify, contain, and ultimately deal with this specific kind of calculated, remorseless evil.
It certainly remains a dark benchmark, a reminder of the depths of cruelty possible and the questions about how we prevent and punish it.
The story of Fan Man Yai. It's a harrowing testament to the shadows that can exist right beneath the surface of everyday life, a reminder of how fragile things are when empathy disappears entirely. Okay, so we hope you liked our today's discussion. For more such discussions, subscribe to our channel, Phantom Homicide.